In the previous video, we learned about modules in Node.js. By now, we know that every file that is defined in Node.js application is called a module. Now, the variables and functions that each module contains are scoped to that file. We also discussed that variables and functions of each module are not available outside the module unless explicitly exported. We also learned how we can export these functionalities to other modules using the exports object. So if we want to use a variable or a function in some module that is part of some other module, we first need to explicitly export them and basically make it public, and then wherever we need it, we can simply import them using the required function. So in this video, let us quickly go over some of the very important core modules. So the first one is the path module. So I am here on the Node.js official documentation. Let us first discuss about the path core module. So here is the path core module. So go ahead and create a new file in the node demos folder and name it as path-demo.js. Now if you see here in the docs, it says that the path module provides utilities for working with file and directory paths. So the very first step is to import the path core module. So let me copy this and paste it right here. So here we are making use of the required function to import the path core module. So let us play with a couple of methods that the path module exposes. So first one is the dir name method. And what it does is that it returns us the directory name for a path. So let us try this out. And here we need to specify at least one argument. So let us say console.log path.dir name. So here we need to specify at least one argument. So we need some path. So here let us use an environment variable, which is _dir name. Now this _dir name gives us the absolute path of the directory containing the currently executing file, which is path-demo.js. So let us try this out. Head over to the terminal and inside the nodejs folder, then inside the node-demos folder, let us run the command node path-demo.js, press enter. So this spits out the absolute path of the directory which contains this file, or you can say this folder. So this folder is contained in this folder, which is node.js, which is referenced by this path, right? Next, let us see a couple of more methods pertaining to the path module. So we have the path.ext name. Now this method gives us the extension of the path from the last occurrence of the period character. So if you see this file name, right after the period character, which is dot, we have .js. So this js is the extension for this file, right? So we want to grab this last portion. So for this, let us say console.log path.ext name and let us specify the file name. So path-demo.js. So let us try this out. Head over to the terminal and inside the node demos folder, run the command node path-demo.js, and this gives us the extension which is .js, right? So this does include the dot and then the extension name. Now we have a couple of other methods as well. So let us just have a quick glance over them. So we have this base name method which returns us the last portion of the path, and if you see this example here, as path is specified and it returns us the last portion of the path. So the last portion of this path is this HTML file. Next we have the path.delimiter, and this gives us the platform specific path delimiter, so you can try this as well. Then we have the path.dir name, which we just tried. Path.ext name, this we have also seen. This we saw just a while back. Then we have path.isAbsolute, and it determines if the path is an absolute path or not. So here you can see this is an absolute path. This is also an absolute path. This is not one, and even the period character is not an absolute path, right? Then we have the join method, which is used to join these segments. So we have these path segments that we can join using the join method to construct our entire path. Next we have the normalize method that normalizes the given path. So it resolves double dot and this single dot segments. So you can see an example right here for Windows. So it is resolving these segments which contain double dot or dot, right? And then we also have a couple of other methods on the path module. The link for the path module documentation can be found down below in the description section of this video. So this was all I wanted to cover about the path module. Let us now discuss about the OS core module. So head over to the node demos folder and create a new file and name it as os-demo.js. So let us search for the OS core module, which is right here. And here you can see it says the OS core module provides operating system related utility methods and properties. So it can be accessed using this statement. So let us copy this and paste it right here. So we are importing the Node.js core module OS using the require function. So first we have a property on the OS core module which is EOL. Now this property spits out the specified end of line marker for the operating system. So for Windows, it gives us \r, \n. So let me comment this. So let us do a strict comparison for this just to be sure, and then go ahead and run the command node os-demo.js. So console.log os.eol, and let us do a strict comparison with this thing. Let me paste it right here, and you need to wrap this under single quotes. So let us try this out. Node os-demo.js, press enter, and you can see this gives us true. Next we have the arch method that gives us the underlying CPU architecture for which the node binary was compiled. So let us log this to the console, getting the underlying architecture. So console.log os.arch. So this is a method on the OS core module. So let us give this a whirl. Node os-demo.js, press enter, and this gives me x64, right? So for my machine it gives us x64 because the underlying architecture for my machine uses 64 bits. Then we have a couple of other methods that you can try as well. Now one method that we can use to check the amount of free system memory in bytes as an integer is the freemem method. So let us log to the console os.freemem and run the command node os-demo.js, press enter, and this gives me this big number. So this represents the amount of free system memory in bytes as an integer, right? Next, let us try the total mem method that returns us the total amount of system memory in bytes as an integer. So console.log os.totalmem, and let us try this out. Next, to check the kernel version that your operating system is using, let us use the version method for this. So console.log os.version, and let us try this out. So it says Windows 10 home single language. Now there's a lot that you can do with the path and the OS core modules, so definitely try experimenting with different properties and methods that they expose. The link for the Node.js guide covering both the modules can be found down below. Now next is the events module that we had already covered in one of our previous videos where we talked about the concept of event emitter in great detail. The link for the video covering the same can be found down below. Next, let us talk about the HTTP core module. So first, let us create a file http-demo.js in the node demos folder. So http-demo.js. So the HTTP core module is another important module that is used for networking in Node.js. So basically it allows Node.js to transfer data over the HTTP protocol. So the very first step is to import the HTTP core module using the require function. So const http require http. Now this module exposes some properties and methods and some classes as well. So let us try to explore the HTTP core module. So first, let us try the methods property on the HTTP core module. So console.log http.methods. Now in order to try this out, head over to the terminal and make sure that you are inside the node demos folder. So now let us run the command node http-demo.js, press enter, and this is what we get. So you can see that this prints out all the HTTP methods that are supported by the HTTP core module. Next, to list all the HTTP status codes along with their respective descriptions, we can access the status underscore codes property on the HTTP core module. So console.log http.status codes, and let us run the file. So here we get a list of status codes, the code and its corresponding description. So this gives us the status codes along with their descriptions that are supported by the HTTP core module. Now let us cover some important methods that the HTTP core module exposes. So the very first one is the create server method, and this method is used to return a new instance of the server class that is present in the HTTP module. So let us see this in action by creating a very simple HTTP server. So let us create an HTTP server that listens for incoming requests at a specific port and gives back a response back to the client. So we have already imported the HTTP core module at the top. So now in order to create a new server instance, let us invoke the create server method available on the HTTP core module. So right here, http.createServer, and to it, let us pass a function that I will define in just a minute, and let us name this as listen to incoming request and serve response. And then to this create server method, let us chain the listen method to which we will bind some port. So dot listen, and here we will have some port variable. So let me define it right here. So const port 3000. Now right here, let us create our listen to incoming request and serve response. So function this. Now this function will automatically accept two arguments, namely the request object and the response object. So let us receive them. So this function will serve as a callback function that is used to handle every single request that hits our server. So now in order to serve some response for the incoming request, let us first set the headers on the response object. Let us first add a status code, so it should be 200 because we are just serving some normal text, and this should definitely go well. So response dot write head, so the status code is 200. So 200 here denotes that the response was successfully delivered, or in simple terms, everything went well. Now as I just mentioned, we want to deliver the plain text as response. So in the headers, we need to set the content type to text/plain. Now we need to send the plain text in the response. So for this, let us make use of the write method on the response object. So response.write hello everyone. Now we finally need to terminate the response so that our server doesn't freeze. So for this, we can make use of the end method on the response object. So response.end, like this. So to see everything in action, let us first run our file, and let us also add a log here. So once our server is running, it will log to the console, server is now running on port, and let us interpolate using backticks. So port, like this. So head over to the terminal and run the command node http-demo.js, press enter. So you can see we are getting here server is now running on port 3000. So let us head over to the browser and type localhost 3000. So you can see our message hello everyone is getting rendered in the browser. And if I now click to inspect, so right here click on inspect and see the network tab, you can see our message in the preview tab. So hello everyone. And in the headers tab, you can see the response headers where you can see the content type as text/plain. Now lastly, let us cover our final core module for this video, which is the FS core module. So right inside the node-demos folder, let us create a new file and name it as fs-demo.js. So let us first understand what is the FS core module. So FS stands for the file system. So using the FS module, you can interact with the file system. So as the very first step, let us import it at the top. So const fs require fs. Now let us first understand the common methods that we can perform using the fs core module. So the very first method that I want to cover for the fs core module is the read file method. Read file. Now this method is used to read the files on your computer. So let me create an HTML file right inside the node demos folder and name it as dummy.html. And in here let us add some HTML code, some dummy content, and let us add a paragraph right here. So lorem 500 and press tab. Now in order to read the HTML file that we just created, let us make use of the read file method. So fs.readFile, and as the first argument we need to specify the path to the file that we want to read, which in our case is in the current folder. So /dummy.html. And then as the second argument, we need to make use of a callback function which gets triggered once we are done with reading the file or there is an error. So error and data. Now right above this, let us again create a simple HTTP server as well, and then serve the content that you read from the dummy.html file as the response. So let us import the HTTP core module at the top. So const http require http. So here we can use the same create server method to create a new server instance, and right inside our create server method we need to define our callback function, which takes on the request object and the response object. And then we also need to chain the listen method to bind our server to some port. So for the port, let us use the value of 8080. And now let us grab our read file code and put it right inside this callback function. Now here we are trying to read our file in an asynchronous manner. Now here one of the two things can happen. Either the read file operation will error out or the file is read successfully. So if there is an error, let us throw that error. So if error, throw error. Now if the file is read successfully, let us first explicitly set our headers so as to inform the browser that the content that is being served in the response is just HTML. So response.writeHead. Set the status code as 200 and set the content type to text/HTML. Next, let us serve the response using the write method and pass the read data to it. So here we can say response.write and pass on the data that we are getting to it, so we can write it to the browser as the response. And lastly, in order to terminate our response, we can make use of the end method on the response object. So return response.end. Like this. Now in order to see the code in action, head over to the terminal and let us kill the server that we had earlier started and run the command node fs-demo.js. Press enter. Okay, so we are not getting a log now. Let me add it for this server as well. Console.log server is now running on port 8080, right? Let me add a port variable right here. Interpolate this using backticks and here set a port variable. So const port 8080. And now let us try this out. So the server is now running on port 8080. So navigate to localhost 8080 and you can see the content that we had in the dummy.html file is getting served in the browser. So click on localhost right here and in the response you can see HTML file is getting served. And in the response headers, you can see the content type is text/HTML. Now let us simulate the error case as well. Let us commit a typo in the file name that we are using in the path and then give this a whirl. So let me kill the server and here say M and let us run the server and make a reload. And you can see this gives us an error right in our console. So let us revert back. Now let us comment the above code and let us now proceed to see how we can create files using the fs core module. Now we have a couple of methods that we can make use of for creating new files. So the first one is the append file method. And what it does is that it appends specified content to a file that we specify. Now if the file doesn't exist, it will automatically create one for us. So fs.append file, and as the first argument you need to specify the file. If it already exists, then the operation is performed on that file, else a new one gets created. Okay, so let me use the name as content.txt. Now as the second argument, we need to specify the text that we want to append. So let us say the text is, this is some dummy content. Now as the third argument, let us add the callback function that receives exactly one argument, which is error. Now if an error occurs, let us throw that error. So if error, throw error, else let us log to the console, new content added. Now in order to try this out, let us head over to the terminal and run the command nodejs-demo.js, press enter, and you can see it says new content added. Now let us see if this new file got created or not. So right inside our folder, inside the node demos folder, you can see a new file content.txt with this new content that we just appended, right? So this worked. So in the start we had no content.txt in the first place. This operation automatically created one file for us with this name, and then the specified text, which is this one, was appended to it, right? Next we have the open method that takes in a mode as the argument. So using this mode you can specify whether you want to open the file in read mode or whether you want to open the file in write mode. So let us try opening our content.txt file that just got created in the read mode. So open method fs.open, and this takes on the path for the file. So we want to read the file that is in the current folder, so content.txt, and then we need to specify the mode in which we want to read the file. So single quotes R, which denotes the read mode. Next, third, we have our callback function where we get exactly two arguments, the error and the file descriptor. So let us understand what do we mean by file descriptor. So here you can see for file descriptors it says that for every process the kernel maintains a table of currently open files and resources. So each open file is assigned a single numerical identifier called a file descriptor, right? So at the system level, all file system operations use these descriptors to identify and track each specific file, right? So using these descriptors you can track the changes in your file, right, at the system level. Rest, if you want to read more on this, the link for this page can be found down below. So back to our code. So here we are trying to open our content.txt file in the read mode. So if we get an error, we can throw it. Else let us log to the console, opened the file in read mode. So let me first comment the above code, which is the append file code, and let us try this out. So you can see it says open the file in read mode. Next, let us talk about the write file method that the FS core module exposes. Now the write file method, as the name can probably tell you, that it is used to write the content to some file, right? So if the file exists, then it overwrites the existing content of that file with the new content that we specify. If the file doesn't exist, a new file containing the specified content will be created. Okay, so write file method fs.write_file. Now as the first argument, we need to specify the name of the file. So let us give it as new file.txt. Then for the second argument, let us specify the content that we want to write into the file. So here let us say this is some new content. Then as the third argument, let us add a callback function, and this will take on an error as the argument. So error. So if an error occurs, let us throw the error. So if error, throw error. Else let us log to the console, new content written to the file. So let us try this out. Head over to the terminal and run the command nodejs-demo.js. And you can see it says new content written to the file. So now you can see a new file got created with the name newfile.txt with the content that we specified, right? So this is how the write file method works. Now the two methods, the write file method and the append file method, can also be used for updating the files. So let us now see how we can delete a file using the fscore module. So the fscore module exposes a method called as unlink, which is used to delete a file that we specify as the first argument. So let me give a comment here, deleting a file fs.unlink, and as the first argument we need to specify the file that we want to delete, which we already have in our directory, which is the content.txt file. Now as the second argument, let us pass a callback function which takes on an error argument if any. And in here let us check whether there is an error. So if error, throw error. If there is no error, then this means that the file successfully got deleted. So let us log to the console, file got successfully deleted. So let me comment the above code, this write file one and this open method one. Now in order to test this, head over to the terminal and run the command node fs-demo.js, and you can see it says file got successfully deleted. So let us see if it got deleted or not. So here you can see the file is no longer there and is now gone. So let us comment this out as well. Now let us see how we can rename a file using the fscore module. So this is also very simple to do, renaming a file. So again on the fscore module we can access a method called as rename, and as the first argument we need to specify the file that we want to rename. So let us rename newfile.txt, which is this one. Then as the second argument we need to specify the new name for the same file. Let us give it a name changed.txt, and then we have our usual third argument, which is the callback. So here we will get an error if any. Now if there is an error, we can throw that error, throw error. Else if everything goes well, let us log to the console, file got renamed. So let us try this out. Head over to the terminal and run the command nodejs-demo.js, and you can see our file got renamed to changed.txt with the exact same content that it earlier had under the name newfile.txt. Makes sense? So our already existing file with this very content got renamed to changed.txt, and the content is still preserved. Now for all the above methods that we just discussed above, we also have synchronous versions for them, so you can read more about them from the docs. So we have the read sync method, the append file sync method, the read file sync method, the rename sync method, and many more, right? So the link for this page can also be found down below. Now let us see how we can create new directories using the fscore module. So for this we have the mkdir method. So let us head over to the fsdemo folder and let us comment this out, mkdir method. So on the fscore module we have this mkdir method, and first we need to specify the path. So let us say /empty folder. So what we want here is that inside the current directory I want to create a new folder with the name empty folder, right? Then as the second argument we will get an error if any. So if error, let us throw that. Else let us log to the console, new directory got created. So let us try this out. Head over to the terminal and run the command node fs-demo.js. It says new directory got created, and here is our new directory, which is the empty folder sitting right next to our modules in node folder and inside the node demos folder, which by the way is our current directory, right? So now let us try to delete the directory that we just created programmatically. So let me copy the above code and paste it down below. And here we need to use the rmdir method. Let us give a comment here, remove directory. So inside the current directory, we want to remove this folder, and here let us log to the console, directory got deleted. So in order to test this, let us run the file and make sure that you have commented the above code. So node fs-demo.js, and it says directory got deleted. So now you can see the empty folder is no longer present in our node demos folder, so it just got deleted. So this was all I wanted to cover about core modules of Node.js. We went over a lot of modules and the properties and methods that they expose. I highly recommend to check out the official Node.js talks and try out other methods as well. So if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up or comment down below if you have any query. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get the notification for all my upcoming uploads, and I will see you guys in the very next one.